No. Hello, and welcome to Thursday Night Live. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show tonight. I have a great topic that came to me. I'm speaking at two conferences next month, and I had to come up with a topic, and this is the topic I came up with. So you're going to get a preview of my presentation that I'm going to be giving next month. And the topic is the battle for your soul. Womp, womp, womp. But did you know, and you might not realize it, but there's a battle going on inside of you. And it's a fight between your connection to the divine and your animal soul or your ego. And what's the battle about? It's the battle about controlling your attention and controlling your body. Didn't think that could happen, could you? You just think that there's one thing going on, but nope, there's not. And so when we're connected to the divine, when we have that connection to source, to God, to our higher self, to the cosmic conscious, whatever word you want to put there, we feel happy and we're content and we're not easily flustered. And we find that we're living in the present moment, in the here and now, and not caught up in a whole bunch of other stuff. And when we're connecting to the divine soul, it reminds us, it doesn't push us to do things, it just suggests things and reminds us. Or as I was talking about a few weeks ago, when I was talking about connecting to spirit, it sometimes will nag and tell us the same thing over and over and over again. To do something. If we ask a question and we get an answer and we get that same answer, it's coming from source. It's coming from the divine. And I'm using animal soul, but ego, same thing. When we're connected to the animal soul, it creates issues about what's going on, especially if it feels like it's losing control and it starts fighting like it's losing its life. The ego lives in a place of fear, and it lives on our perceptions, usually negative perceptions. It tells us stories. When our ego is engaged, especially if it is in this fight place, it activates our inner critic that tells us all these nasty and terrible things about ourselves, how ugly we are and how fat we are and how stupid we are, and all these things that just bring our energy down because it fills us with negative thoughts. It fills us with anxiety and fills us with fear. And all of those things knock us out of alignment. They knock us out of being present. They knock us out of being centered. And when we're knocked out of being in that space, we can't connect to the divine. Period. That's just how it works. And so what I'm going to talk about next is about how the soul devolves. And this information comes out of Kabbalistic texts. Where I first learned about it was in a series of books called Lessons in Tanya, which I found fascinating to the point that I bought the 5-book set for kind of a lot of money, but it was worth it. But you can actually find the daily portion of the Lessons in Tanya online. If you just type in Lessons in Tanya, usually it comes from Chabad.org. But this devolution of the soul comes from a Kabbalistic perspective. And so they contend that when we're born, we're naturally and automatically connected to the divine. We're tied to that source energy. But then life happens. We have life experiences. We get yelled at for some reason. Grandma dies. We get hurt. Those things can taint and shade what's going on inside. But then there's also this level of programming that happens from the world around us that tells us, all children need to be quiet, and these rules that are put in place that are not necessarily supporting our happiness, our ability to be who we are and be in our integrity. And so if there's a rule that's put in place and it really upsets us, but it's enforced, we will take that on and structure ourselves in order to deal with this rule. And I don't have an example, but I think I need to come up with an example when I give this presentation so it'll make more sense. Anyway, but as life goes on and these situations happen, especially if it's reinforced and reinforced, so you do something and your mom says, oh, well, you were just really stupid, and then something else happens, you get a bad grade on a test, and it just brings up your mom's voice in your head that says, oh, well, I'm just really stupid, and we tend to, when we're in that lower state, look for things to validate these programs because it's a program. It's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily that you're stupid, but you took on this program and now you're going through life with the assumption that I'm stupid. I don't matter. I'm invisible. I mean, we all have these ideas inside of us that aren't necessarily truth. They're just the story that we've told ourselves over and over again, and we look for validation of it in the world around us. But this shift, it happens really slowly. It's very rare that a situation can happen that would cause our soul to devalue, like, boom, it's gone. Now, we can have trauma that can really impact us, but it doesn't necessarily affect our soul. And so, so this happens very slowly. And in Kabbalah, they suggest that as we move from connecting to the divine, we establish this series of shells. So every time something happens, every time we feel stupid, we maybe put this little shell around us, kind of as a form of protection, I guess. They call it Kelipots, Kelipots. I don't know if that's actually like how you say it in Hebrew. I call it Kelipots, chalupa. I like chalupa myself. But anyway, but these shells are like Russian nesting dolls. So there's you, like, there I am, all sweet and cute and attached to the divine. And then stuff happens and you get a shell. And something else happens and you get a shell. And it's not like every time you feel dumb, you get a shell. But in these moments that are impactful in our lives, how's that? And the more layers you have, the further from the divine you become. The more clouded that connection becomes, but it also makes you become closer to that animal soul. It makes it so that the appeal and the enticement of the ego becomes more intense. And as these things form, we become more separated. We become more disconnected from source. Further down we go, we can't even get sustenance from the divine. So I'm sure everybody's heard of like chi and prana, and life force energy that runs through us, which animates us. It is part of our animating self. But the further down we go, the more obstructed that flow of energy becomes. It's one of the reasons why people get sick, because that flow of energy becomes slowed down. But it also, on a mental and emotional level, makes it so that you're more separated. You become much more materialistic because you're not connected to the divine. I find that people that are shrouded in their chalupas tend to not really have a lot of integrity because they're always looking out for things from their own personal vantage point. And so some of you guys might recognize it because the further down you go, you might become an energy vampire because you can't get that sustenance from the divine. And so now you have to start looking out around you to become full, to feel satisfied on the inside. The further down you go, you start to become, really more narcissistic, and you become consumed in the protection of the ego, because people that are narcissistic are surrounded by ego. And a narcissist will take what they want to fill that inner world. And it's because they're so far from the divine, they have no empathy and compassion, and they'll only take, they take because they want to fill that void that they feel inside. And they take it from you, where if we're closer to the divine, we can get it from source. So you might say, okay, that was really interesting, which I did think that was really pretty interesting conversation. We talk about how to stay connected to the divine on this show a lot, practicing mindfulness, tapping, breathing. If you find yourself caught up in those negative thoughts, if the inner critic starts activating, if you're not in the present moment, you are actually more caught up in that animal soul and the working of the ego than you're being connected to source. And so sometimes you just need to acknowledge that, notice that, oh, I'm getting caught up in my ego. Okay, maybe I don't need to do that anymore. And sometimes just that little piece of awareness will allow you to shift it, because it's really all about awareness. So I found this topic very interesting. It's part of my Dang, It Was Me All Along book, or Dang, It Was Me All Along, where I talk about that topic in much more detail. And it gives you, there's a lot more to it than what I just talked about. But I think that kind of gives you a flavor because it's really kind of an interesting topic. And no one really talks about it at all. At all. Anyway, so with that said, I would like to share that this show is brought to you by the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's appliedenergeticsinstitute.com. And you can go on that website, which is my website, and download your free Jumpstart Your Intuition Guide. It's available on the website. You just go there, click on the link, and it'll give you an opportunity to download it. And you can start learning to become a medical intuitive counselor, or energy medicine practitioner from the comfort of your own home. Okay, but it's also brought to you by me, soulhealer.com. So if there's stuff going on in your life that you would like to get some insights about, please drop me a line. We can set up a time to schedule a private consultation. All of my books, including Dang, It Was Me All Along, are available on that website, plus tons of articles and stuff like that. And if you are listening to this show in a recorded format and aren't here live but would like to join the live, the easiest place to go is YouTube, and go to my YouTube channel, which is Just Energy Radio on YouTube. 3 words, Just Energy Radio, at 7 p.m. Central every Thursday night. Click the live button and join the fun and hang out and get a free on-air psychic reading from me. Anyway, isn't that fun? Okay, so there's lots of comments in here already. And so I'm just going to, so if you're new here, and you would like to get a reading, just type in the box, hey, Dr. Rita, you have great hair. I would like a reading, and then provide me with a number between 1 and 3. Just 1 and 3, not 5, not 7. And I would really appreciate it if you want to communicate with me, that you type in all capital letters so I can separate out what's chatter in the background and what I actually need to pay attention to, because sometimes it gets pretty busy in here. Okay.